Alright, we're not going to waste a lot of time with introductions and stuff like that this time. We just want to remind everyone that this is part 2 of the series where we're just flat out reading through the entire collection of Epstein documents. And last time we left on page 18 of the Giuffre vs. Maxwell court transcripts. So let's continue, starting with page 19. Kellen testified as follows. Did Ghislaine Maxwell work as a recruiter for young girls for Jeffrey Epstein when you met her? On advice of my counsel, I must invoke my 5th and 6th Amendment privilege. Isn't it true that Ghislaine Maxwell would recruit underage girls for sex and sex acts with Jeffrey Epstein? On advice of my counsel, I must invoke my 5th and 6th Amendment privilege. Is it just me, or does it make somebody seem completely guilty when they refuse to answer questions about an underage sex trafficking ring? Similarly, Jeffrey Epstein invoked the 5th Amendment when asked about defendants' involvement in procuring underage girls for sex with him. Of course he did. He was a dirtbag. Maxwell was one of the main women whom you used to procure underage girls for sex activities, true? 5th. Maxwell was a primary co-conspirator in your sexual abuse scheme, true? 5th. Maxwell was a primary co-conspirator in your sex trafficking scheme, true? 5th. Maxwell herself regularly participated in your sexual exploitation of minors, true? 5th. It's infuriating to picture this guy sitting there on the stand and not saying anything other than 5th. It is an undisputed fact that Juan Alessi testified that defendant was one of the people who procured some of the over 100 girls he witnessed visit Epstein, and that he had to clean defendant's sex toys. Juan Alessi was Epstein's house manager. He testified as follows. And over the course of that 10-year period of time while Miss Maxwell was at the house, do you have an approximation as to the number of different females that you were told were massage therapists that came to the house? I cannot give you a number, but I would say probably over 100 in my stay there. I don't think I asked the question that I was looking to ask, so let me go back. Did you go out looking for the girls? No. To bring? Never. As the massage therapist? Never. Well, who did? Miss Maxwell, Mr. Epstein, and their friends, because their friends relayed to other friends they know about a massage therapist and they would send to the house, so it was referrals. Did you have occasion to clean up after these massages? Yes. Okay, and that is after both a massage for Jeffrey Epstein as well as clean up after a massage that Ghislaine Maxwell may have received? Yes. And on occasion, in cleaning up after a massage of Jeffrey Epstein or Ghislaine Maxwell, did you have occasion to find vibrators or sex toys that would be left out? Yes, I did. It is an undisputed fact that defendant was unable to garner a single witness throughout discovery who can testify that she did not act as the procurer of underage girls and young women for Jeffrey Epstein. Yeah, because basically every single person she knew was aware of what she was doing. Just think, she literally can't produce one single witness to back her up or even lie for her. Defendant has not been able to procure a single witness, not one, to testify that defendant did not procure girls for sex with Epstein or participate in the sex. Even one of her own witnesses, Tony Figueroa, testified that she both procured girls and participated in the sex. Another one of defendant's witnesses, Miss Giuffre's mother, named defendant as Miss Giuffre's new mama. Indeed, those who knew her well, who spent considerable time with her in Epstein's shared household, like Juan Alessi, Alfredo Rodriguez, and Joanna Sjoberg, have testified that she was Epstein's procuress. Others who lived with her, Jeffrey Epstein, Nadia Marcinkova, and Sarah Kellen, invoked the 5th Amendment so as to not answer questions on the same. No one has testified to the contrary. Documentary evidence also shows that defendant trafficked Miss Giuffre and procured her for sex with convicted pedophile Jeffrey Epstein while she was underage. How is this woman not in federal prison? Anyways, now we're getting on to the flight logs. Defendant has never offered a legal explanation for what she was doing with and why she was traveling with a minor child on 21 flights while she was a child, including 6 international flights aboard a convicted pedophile's private jet all over the world. Her motion for summary judgment, as well as all previous briefing papers, are absolutely silent on those damning documents. And then we're moving on to the photographs. Throughout a mountain of briefing and even in her own deposition testimony, defendant never offered an explanation regarding Miss Giuffre's photographs of her, defendant, and Epstein. She never offered a legal explanation for why Prince Andrew was photographed with his hand around Miss Gouffre's bare waist while she was a minor child while posing with defendant inside defendant's house in London. And you guys got to check out the Sean Atwood video where he knocks on the door and the housekeeper actually opens it and you can see the white banister inside, basically proving that the picture was indeed taken inside the same house. This particular photograph corroborates Miss Gouffre's claims, and there is no other reasonable explanation why an American child should be in the company of adults, not her kin, in the London house owned by the girlfriend of a now convicted sex offender. Miss Gouffre also produced pictures of herself taken when she was in New York with defendant and Epstein, and from a trip to Europe with defendant and Epstein. And Miss Gouffre has produced a number of pictures of herself taken at the Zorro Ranch, Epstein's New Mexico ranch, 2 of which are below. Finally, among other nude photos, which included full nudes of defendant, Miss Gouffre produced images of females that the Palm Beach police confiscated during the execution of the warrant, including one photograph revealing the bare bottom of a girl who appears to be prepubescent. Miss Gouffre will only submit its redacted form. I know this was technically like a civil trial, a defamation suit, something like that, but how is Ghislaine Maxwell not in federal prison? Anyways, let's read on. The Victim Identification Letter. In 2008, the United States Attorney's Office for the Southern District of Florida identified Miss Gouffre as a protected victim of Jeffrey Epstein's sex abuse. The U.S. Attorney mailed Miss Gouffre a notice of her rights as a crime victim under the CVRA.24. Now we've got the New York Presbyterian Hospital records. Miss Gouffre has provided extensive medical records in this case, including medical records from the time when defendant was sexually abusing and trafficking her. Miss Gouffre produced records supporting her claim of being sexually abused in New York, resulting in both defendant and Epstein taking plaintiff to New York Presbyterian Hospital in New York while she was a minor. The dates on the hospital records show she was 17 years old. Looks like it's moving pretty quick here. Now we've got Judith Lightfoot psychological records. As the court is aware, defendant propounded? Sorry, not familiar with that word. Propounded wildly overboard requests for production concerning the past 18 years of Miss Gouffre's medical history. Defendant repeatedly and vehemently argued to the court that it was essential to procure every page of these records and a fanfare of unnecessary motion practice. Defendant's motion to compel DE 75. Defendant's motion for sanctions. You know what? We're gonna move on from this. Miss Gouffre and her counsel took on the considerable burden and significant expense of retrieving and producing over 250 pages of medical records from over 20 providers spanning 2 continents and nearly 2 decades. Now that those records have been collected, defendant's 68-page motion makes no reference to a single medical record produced by Miss Gouffre, nor a single provider, nor a single treatment, nor a single medication prescribed. After defendant's repeated motion practice stressing the essentiality of these records, this may surprise the court, but not Miss Gouffre. Defendants request unearthed documents that are highly unfavorable to defendant that corroborate Miss Gouffre's claims against her. Years before this cause of action arose, Miss Gouffre sought counseling from a psychologist for the trauma she continued to experience after being abused by defendant and Epstein. A 2011 psychological treatment record written by her treating psychologist unambiguously described defendant as Miss Gouffre's abuser. Miss Gouffre was approached by Ghislaine Maxwell, who said she could help her get a job as a massage therapist. Seemed respectable, was shown how to massage, etc. Jeff Epstein told to undress and perform sexual acts on person. Miss Maxwell promised her $200 a job. Therefore, years before defendant defamed her, Miss Gouffre confided in her treating psychologist that Maxwell recruited her for sex with Epstein. I know this stuff is sick and hard to listen to, but we're just going to try to press on and get through it. Now we're getting into the infamous message pads that practically everyone was talking about when this story first broke a few weeks ago. Message pads. Detective Recarey, the lead investigator of the criminal investigation into Epstein and his associates' sex crimes, recovered carbon copies of handwritten messages taken by various staff, including defendant, at Epstein's Palm Beach residence. These were collected both from trash pulls from the residence and during the execution of the search warrant, where the pads were found laying out in the open in the residence. The search warrant was executed in 2005, and the message pads collected include messages recorded in 2004 and 2005. Numerous witnesses have described that these copies of collected messages accurately reflect those taken by various staff at the Palm Beach Epstein mansion between 2004 and 2005. The messages raise a question of fact as to Maxwell's involvement in the sexual abuse of minors and are relevant to refute Maxwell's denial of any involvement with Epstein during relevant time periods and accordingly her denial of knowledge of certain events. While there were hundreds of these messages recovered during the investigation, this small sample demonstrates the undeniable reality that there exists a genuine issue of material fact with respect to defendants' involvement in and knowledge of the activities described by Gouffre, which Maxwell has said were, quote, untrue and, quote, obvious lies. This sampling reveals that Maxwell, quote, GM, took messages at the residence, including from underage girls who were calling to schedule a time to come over to see Epstein. This demonstrates that Maxwell was at Epstein's Palm Beach mansion in 2004 and 2005, incidentally a time period she has denied being around the house in her deposition. The messages also reveal that multiple girls were leaving messages that were being taken and memorialized and left out in the open for anyone to see. Certain messages also make clear that a number of these girls were in school. In addition to taking messages herself and the staff working under her direction taking these relevant messages, staff employees were taking and leaving messages for defendant. This is evidence that Maxwell was in the house at relevant times, including times that she has now testified under oath that she was not there. Other messages demonstrate Epstein and Maxwell's friends, including Jean-Luc Brunel, leaving messages relating to underage females. The following is a small sampling of such messages. Guys, just imagine all the messages that they couldn't find or that they couldn't recover, or just the ones that they don't even show in this small sample. But anyways, we've got a lot of redacted stuff on this page, it looks like, so I'll just say redacted when we come across a blacked out section, so let's read on. The following are descriptions of a sampling of message pads that create a genuine dispute of material fact. One message pad reflects redacted, who was identified in the Palm Beach police report as a minor, contacting Jeffrey Epstein for, quote, work, explaining that she does not have any money. The term work was often used by members of Jeffrey Epstein's sexual trafficking ring to refer to sexual massages. See Gouffre 05660. She stated she was called by Sarah for her to return to work for Epstein. Redacted stated, work is the term used by Sarah to provide the massages in underwear. Gouffre 001462. July 5th. No year to Jeffrey Epstein from redacted. Quote, I need work. I don't have any money. Do you have some work for me? Other message pads reflect redacted, who was a minor, calling and leaving a message at the Palm Beach mansion that she has recruited another girl for Jeffrey Epstein. The second message demonstrates that Jeffrey Epstein required different girls to be scheduled every day of the week. The third shows an offer to have 2 minor girls come to the home at the same time to provide sexual massages. These type of massages indicate the lack of secrecy of the fact that multiple young females were visiting every day and at least raises a question of fact whether Maxwell was knowledgeable and involved as Gouffre has said, or whether Gouffre was lying and Maxwell was not at all involved or aware of this activity as defendant would attempt to have the world believe. Gouffre 001428, undated. Jeffrey from redacted. Quote, has girl for tonight. Gouffre 001432, pictured above. July 9th, 2004. Mr. Epstein from redacted. Redacted is available on Tuesday, no one for tomorrow. Gouffre 001433, January 17th, 2004. Mr. Epstein from redacted. Quote, me and redacted can come tomorrow anytime or redacted alone. Gouffre 001452, undated. Jeffrey from redacted. Quote, has girl for tonight. Other message pads demonstrate that there was a pattern and practice of using young females to recruit additional young females to provide sexual massages on a daily basis. Gouffre 001413, pictured above. Jeffrey Epstein from, quote, in. Redacted hasn't confirmed redacted for 11 o'clock yet, so she is keeping redacted on hold in case redacted doesn't call back. Gouffre 001448, August 20th, 2005. Jeffrey Epstein from redacted. Redacted confirmed redacted at 4 p.m. Who is scheduled for morning? I believe redacted wants to work. This message pad reflects that a friend of Jeffrey Epstein is sending him a 16-year-old Russian girl for purposes of sex. Gouffre 001563, pictured above. June 1st, 2005. For Jeffrey Epstein from Jean-Luc. He has a teacher for you to teach you how to speak Russian. She is 2 times 8 years old, not blonde. Lessons are free and you can have your first today if you call. So the 2 times 8 thing, I'm not sure that anyone knows for sure. I've heard that it's just a code to mean that she's 16 years old, but I've also heard other people say that they think it means 2 8-year-olds. We're not going to speculate on that. I mean, we're just trying to read this the way it shows up on the pages, but, take it for what you will. This message pad directly refutes Maxwell's sworn testimony that she was not present during the year 2005 at Jeffrey Epstein's Palm Beach mansion, because this shows Redacted leaving a message for Jeffrey at the Palm Beach home that she was going to work out with defendant on September 10th, 2005. The police were only able to retrieve a fraction of these message pads during their trash pull, but even in the few they recovered, it shows Maxwell was regularly at the Palm Beach home during the time period she claimed she was not. To the contrary, she was both sending and receiving messages, and messages like this one reflect her presence at the mansion. Gouffre 001412, September 10th, 2005. During the year Maxwell says she was never around. Jeffrey Epstein from Redacted. Quote, I went to Sarah and made her water bottle, and I went to work out with GM, Ghislaine Maxwell. These message pads further corroborate that defendant lied in her testimony, and she was in fact in regular contact with Jeffrey Epstein during the years 2004 and 2005. For example, the message from, quote, Larry demonstrates that defendant is at the Palm Beach mansion so frequently that people, including Epstein's main pilot, Larry Visosky, are leaving messages for Maxwell at the Palm Beach house. Gouffre 001435, July 25th, 2004. Mr. Epstein from Miss Maxwell. Quote, tell him to call me. Gouffre 001449, August 22nd, 2005. Jeffrey Epstein from Ghislaine Maxwell. Gouffre 001453, April 25th, 2004. For Miss Maxwell from Larry, quote, returning your call. This message pad shows that defendant was clearly actively involved in Jeffrey Epstein's life and the activities at his Palm Beach mansion. Gouffre 001454, undated. Jeffrey from Ghislaine. Quote, would be helpful to have Redacted come to Palm Beach today to stay here and help train new staff with Ghislaine. This message pad clearly reflects an underage female, noted by the police redaction of the name, leaving a message asking if she can come to the house at a later time because she needs to, quote, stay in school. Gouffre 001417, pictured above. Jeffrey, February 28, 2005. Redacted name. Quote, she is wondering if 2:30 is okay. She needs to stay in school. This message pad reflects a message from Redacted, who was under the age of 18 at the time she was going over to Jeffrey Epstein's home to provide sexual massages, according to the Palm Beach investigative report. Gouffre 001421, March 4th, 2005. Jeffrey from Redacted. Quote, it is okay for Redacted to stop by and drop something. These message pads reflect the pattern of underage girls noted by the police redaction of the name on the message pad, calling the Palm Beach mansion to leave a message about sending a, quote, female over to provide a sexual massage. Gouffre 001423, November 8, 2004. To Mr. Jeffrey Epstein, redacted from, quote, I have a female for him. Gouffre 001426, pictured above. January 9th, 2005. Jeffrey Epstein to Jeffrey Epstein from Redacted. Quote, I have a female for him. This message pad reflects the pattern and practice of having young girls bring other young girls to the house to perform sexual massages. Indeed, the Redacted reflected in this message pad corresponds in name to the Redacted that Tony Figueroa testified he initially brought to Jeffrey Epstein during the time period that the defendant was requesting that Tony find some young females to bring to Jeffrey Epstein's home. Then it says, see Figueroa at 184-185. The Palm Beach police report reflects that Redacted and Redacted also brought 17-year-old Redacted to the home to perform sexual massages. See Gouffre 05641. Redacted thereafter recruited a number of other young girls to perform sexual massages as reflected in the Palm Beach police report. Gouffre 001427, pictured above. January 2nd, 2003. Jeffrey Epstein from Redacted. quote, wants to know if she should bring her friend redacted with tonight. This message pad reflects multiple sexual massages being scheduled for the same day, which corroborates Virginia Giuffre, redacted, and Joanna Schoberg's testimony that Jeffrey Epstein required that he have multiple orgasms in a day, which occurred during these sexual massages. Giuffre 001449, pictured above, September 3rd, 2005. Jeffrey Epstein from Redacted. Quote, I left message for Redacted to confirm for 11 o'clock a.m. and Redacted for 4:30 p.m. This message pad shows a friend of Jeffrey Epstein's discussing with him how he had sex with an 18-year-old who had also been with Jeffrey Epstein. Giuffre 001456, pictured above, undated. Jeffrey Epstein from Jean-Luc. Quote, he just did a good one. 18 years. She spoke to me and said, quote, I love Jeffrey. Law enforcement was able to confirm identities of underage victims through the use of the names and telephone numbers in these message pads. Then it looks like there's some testimony from whichever law enforcement officer it was that they were talking to, so let's go through that real quick. The next line down is what I wanted to focus on. April 5th, 2005. This trash pool, what evidence is yielded from this particular trash pool? The trash pool indicated that there were several messages with written items on it. There was a message from HR indicating that there would be an 11 o'clock appointment. There were other individuals that had called during that day. And when you would see females' names and telephone numbers, would you take those telephone numbers and match it to a person? We would do our best to identify who that person was. And is that one way in which you discovered the identities of some of the other what soon came to be known as victims? Correct. Did you find names of other witnesses and people that you knew to have been associated with the house in those message pads? Yes. And so what was the evidentiary value to you of the message pads collected from Jeffrey Epstein's home in the search warrant? It was very important to corroborate what the victims had already told me as to calling in and for work. Alright, that's a pretty good place to stop for now, but definitely don't miss the next episode where we'll be going over the Black Book. We've been getting some awesome support from the people who don't have time to read these documents themselves because of family things and work schedules, stuff like that. So they basically just listen to these while they're driving to work or they have time. So we really appreciate that. We just wish we could do a lot more of these. It would be awesome if somebody else out there had the time to read the entire collection of documents, almost like a book on tape type of format, something like that. But we'll keep plugging away until we get to the end. A subscriber reached out to us wanting to volunteer her voice for the series, and we're trying to organize how we'll arrange that, but that's going to be awesome. She has a great voice, and she wants to remain anonymous for now, but it's going to be so cool to have different voices going back and forth in the conversation, you know what I mean? So like when Virginia Giuffre is speaking, or any of the other female victims, or anyone, they're answering questions and testifying, it'll actually be a female voice. I think it'll make it a lot easier to follow what's going on and make it a little more immersive. So anyways, thanks for hanging out. We have a lot of exciting stuff coming out soon, so don't forget to check back. I think YouTube has pretty much deranked us and demonetized us to the point where you're not going to get any notifications anymore. So unfortunately, you will have to check with the channel to see when there's anything new. Maybe we'll start a mailing list if anyone is interested in that. But you could also follow us on Twitter. We just made an account this month. There's a link to that and all of these Epstein documents in the description, so don't forget to check that out. And we will see you guys soon. Peace.